A jet killed its own builder. No bombs, no bankruptcy. August 1st, 1997. McDonnell Douglas vanished into Boeing in a $13 billion stock swap. 78 years of American engineering, gone overnight. The official story blames lost Pentagon contracts. The official story's wrong. The killer wasn't Airbus. It wasn't Lockheed. It was one airplane. A wide-body trijet they built with their own hands. And one of their own engineers wrote down exactly how it would happen, 2 years before it did, on company stationery. Nobody listened. How does a 78-year-old company die overnight? Stay with me. Rewind to 1966. American Airlines wanted something specific. Not another 747. Smaller. 2 aisles. Long range, short runways. 2 American giants raised their hands. McDonnell Douglas in Long Beach. Lockheed in Burbank, 30 miles up the road. Same customer, same blueprint, born twins. Douglas called theirs the DC-10. Lockheed called theirs the L-1011. American ordered 25. United ordered 30 more. McDonnell Douglas had a launch. They also had a problem they didn't see yet, the cargo door. Picture this. A normal car door opens inward, latches inside. The DC-10 door opened outward, latched outside. Smart for floor space, risky for physics. That latch wasn't a convenience. It was the only thing between the cabin and the sky. June 12, 1972. American Airlines Flight 96 lifted out of Detroit. 67 souls on board. Captain Bryce McCormick at the controls. 24,000 hours of flying behind him. At 11,700 feet, the rear cargo door blew off. The cabin floor partially collapsed. Control cables snapped. The number 2 engine in the tail died. Most captains would have run out of options. McCormick didn't. Years earlier, on his own time, he'd practiced flying the DC-10 on engine thrust alone. Why? Because he wanted to know. He flew that crippled jet back to Detroit on throttles. Everyone walked off. 67 survivors. 0 dead. The NTSB looked at the wreckage and saw something terrifying. The door could do it again. They drafted an airworthiness directive. The FAA was ready to issue it. Then the phone rang. McDonnell Douglas President Jackson McGowan called FAA Administrator John Schaefer personally. He proposed what was later called a gentleman's agreement. Douglas would fix the doors voluntarily. No public directive, no paper trail. Schaefer agreed. The fixes were incomplete. The clock started ticking. 15 days later, in San Diego, an engineer named Dan Applegate sat down and wrote a memo. He worked at Convair, the subcontractor that physically built the DC-10 fuselages. He'd worried about that door for years. Now he had a near disaster to point at. Picture signing your name to a memo that predicts the future. June 27, 1972. The most damning internal document in American aviation history. He wrote that the cargo door latching system had been progressively degraded since day one. He wrote that over 20 years of service, the doors would come open in flight, and that this would, quote, usually result in the loss of the airplane. He handed it to his boss, J.B. Hurt. Hurt read it. Hurt buried it. Why? Not technical, contractual. If Convair officially flagged the defect, Convair owned the redesign bill. So the memo went into a drawer. Think about that. A warning light blinking red on the dashboard, and nobody pulls over. It sat there 1 year, 8 months, 4 days. March 3rd, 1974. Paris, Orly. Turkish Airlines Flight 981 pushed back for London Heathrow. 335 passengers, 11 crew. On the previous stop in Istanbul, a baggage handler wrestled the rear door shut. He couldn't read the warning placard. Worse, the latching pins on this airframe had been filed down. They were holding pressure they were never designed to hold. 6 minutes after takeoff, climbing through 11,000 feet near Memo, the door let go. The decompression cut every flight control cable beneath the cabin floor. Elevator, rudder, number 2 engine, gone in a single instant. The crew had 77 seconds. There was nothing left to fly. At 783 kilometers per hour, the jet hit the forest of Ermenonville. 346 dead. At that moment, the worst air disaster in human history. 4 days later, the FAA finally issued the directive it had refused to write in 1972, the exact one Applegate had predicted, 2 years and 8 months too late. What's the price of a memo in a drawer? The lawsuits were the largest in aviation history. McDonnell Douglas blamed the FAA, Turkish Airlines, Convair. Then the Applegate memo surfaced in Discovery. The defense collapsed. Settlements hit roughly $100 million. The brand survived. The reputation didn't. Then came May 25th, 1979. American Flight 191 out of Chicago O'Hare, bound for LA, 271 people on board. At rotation, the entire left engine ripped off its pylon, cartwheeled over the wing, and slammed onto the runway. The hydraulic lines holding the leading edge slats were severed. Slats retracted on the left wing only. Asymmetric lift, asymmetric stall. The airplane rolled left and dove into a field, 273 dead. To this day, the deadliest aviation accident on American soil. The NTSB traced it to a maintenance shortcut. American had been pulling engines and pylons together on a forklift instead of separately. But the report added the line that mattered. The pylon design itself was, quote, vulnerable to maintenance damage. On June 6th, FAA Administrator Langhorne Bond pulled the type certificate. 138 DC-10s grounded across 8 airlines. The first fleet-wide grounding in American history. Why does the FAA wait until 271 are dead to act? The certificate came back. The orders didn't. Passengers learned the model number. They started asking at the gate, "Have you ever checked which jet your ticket put you on?" In 1979, millions did. In August 1983, McDonnell Douglas closed DC-10 production. 386 civilian frames built. Break-even was 438. They lost money on every airplane sold. They tried again with the MD-11. Missed every target. American and Singapore, the launch customers, walked away inside 5 years. The wide-body trijet was dead. In 1989, McDonnell Douglas launched a reorganization called Total Quality Management System. Their own Long Beach employees renamed it on day one. They called it Time to Quit and Move to Seattle. They were already reading the obituary. By the mid-1990s, McDonnell Douglas was a famous name and a shrinking shadow. Civilian was bleeding. Then military collapsed too. Lost the F-22 contract in 1991. Lost the F-35 contract 5 years later. No more fighters, no more wide bodies. The board did the math. December 1996, they signed an agreement and plan of merger with Boeing. $13 billion in stock. The deal closed at 12:01 in the morning, August 1st, 1997. There had been a big three in American commercial aviation: Boeing, Lockheed, Douglas. Lockheed had quit civilian aircraft in 1983. Now, Douglas was gone too. One survivor, one American airframer left to face Airbus alone. The duopoly that defines aviation today was born in that overnight transaction. Here's the part almost nobody tells. The DC-10 didn't fully die. The Air Force had ordered 60 military tankers built on the DC-10 airframe, designated KC-10 Extender. They went into service, refueling American fighters worldwide. McDonnell Douglas built them, and they outlived McDonnell Douglas by 27 years. The last KC-10 flew its retirement mission on September 26, 2024. Travis Air Force Base in California, to the Boneyard in Arizona. Can an airframe outlive the company that designed it? This one did, by a generation. The company had been gone since '97. Think about that. The airplane that destroyed the company in the commercial market quietly served the country longer than the company itself existed. FedEx flew converted MD-10s until 2022. The Douglas DNA outlived the Douglas name. Engineers like to believe good engineering wins. The DC-10 story is the counterexample. Dan Applegate did everything an engineer is supposed to do. He saw the defect. He documented it. He warned in writing that people would die. The crash he predicted happened almost exactly as he described it, and it changed nothing in time to matter. Because the question that killed McDonnell Douglas was never engineering. It was moral. What do you do with a memo that exposes your own liability? In 1972, the answer was a phone call between a president and a regulator, a gentleman's agreement, a paper that stayed in a drawer. The cargo door didn't kill McDonnell Douglas. The drawer did. 25 years later, when Boeing absorbed what was left, the deal closed quietly, after midnight, without a press conference, the way some funerals are arranged. Every company has a memo in a drawer. The ones that survive read it.